game-changing discussions on the big ideas that shape our thinking. This is One-to-One.
Shaibu Hussaini is a Nigerian journalist, film critic, and Director General of the Nigerian Film and Video Censors Board, the regulatory body for the Nigerian film industry. He's also my guest on the show today. Dr. Hussaini, welcome to One-to-One.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
The pleasure is all mine, I assure you. I've been looking forward to this interview for quite some time. So, Dr. Hussaini, you are a man who has worn many hats in a long and distinguished career. It's the sort of thing that one says about a military general. I've heard you described as a multifaceted personality. You've been, or you are, a film critic. You're known as one of the most consistent documentarists of Nollywood. You've had a career in journalism spanning over 3 decades as a film and culture journalist with the Guardian newspaper. You're a cultural administrator. You've served as secretary of the governing board of the National Theatre, and you have acted. And before we came on camera, you were telling me about wrestling Okonkwo.
Yeah, on stage, Things Fall Apart, that we did in 1991.
In 1991.
And then I had a very active career as a dancer even.
As a dancer, absolutely. And I hope we'll get to talk about you and Obazolobudu at some point. Long-standing member of the jury board of the African Movie Academy Awards, a former member of the Nigerian Official Selection Committee for the Oscars, and you have chaired that committee as well.
Yeah, I've been a part of that committee.
Absolutely. But now you are Director General of the National Film and Video Censors Board. On the face of it, going strictly by the name of the agency, it conjures up images of this all-powerful industry gatekeeper and regulatory colossus, whose primary mission is to wield the big stick over the wayward practices of industry operators. But I'm sure it's a lot more than that, particularly under your leadership. So I'd like to learn a bit about some of the policy initiatives of your organization, that perhaps more focused on the developmental and promotional side of things as it relates to content development in today's movie industry in Nigeria.
All right, thank you so much for having me. And I was wondering where you got all those. You were just listing them down. All right, that's fine. All right, the National Film and Video Censors Board, and by the way, we are working seriously to ensure that we expunge the censorship in the name, because globally, we have moved to classification of content, and that does not suggest that we don't still apply some level of censorship, but the name itself is an aberration. And since it's a creation of government, we have to go back to the National Assembly, so that they can tweak the name so that it can align with names of other agencies internationally. In UK, is the British Board of Film Classification. In South Africa, classification. In Kenya, classification commission. So why do we have to continue to retain censorship in our name? Absolutely. So the first thing I've done is, upon my appointment, I had approached the Honorable Minister, and she agreed. And so we are at the National Assembly trying to get them to repeal the act so that we can get censorship. Because usually, even before I came to the board, each time I hear censorship, I have the like the image of a scissor, trying to cut off, because it's usually get this scene out, and all that.
Yeah. And you use the word expunge.
Expunge,
so it conveys the strength of feeling.
Like that, So, but we're working towards that. But more importantly, what we do is to regulate distribution and exhibition of films in the country. Beyond classifying those films, we regulate distribution. So we ensure that those who are responsible for getting those films to the right prospects are licensed, and then they are not only are they licensed, the films that they actually get to the right prospects are films that are rated, properly rated, because we care a lot about what our viewers see, and we are responsible for what actually they see, because by the time we give it a rating, we are saying that this is the type of film that the people in this age range should see. Then, of course, we regulate the exhibition space. Exhibition is where you actually take the product to for people to come and see, like cinemas and all that. We ensure that the spaces are conducive for people to see. We ensure that they are licensed and they only exhibit licensed films or films that are classified by the agency. Beyond that too, we carry out a lot of media literacy program because I strongly believe that my work will be a lot easier if people are media literate. Media literate in the sense of deciding what media to consume, in the sense of knowing, how to protect young ones from some of these harmful content, socially harmful content that are passed, without our knowledge. Because with the expansion of the digital space, with how it has been so democratized, everyone is a content creator now. A lot of people just stay from the warm comfort of their homes and upload movies and all that. We're working towards, a protocol that will handle such kind of films. But basically, we classify, we distribute, we manage distribution as well as exhibition, and then somehow we regulate the industry in several ways.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for that. And that's a good place to start in this conversation. But of course, there are challenges. And, talk to me about some of the challenges you think that your industry faces, and how you think perhaps we ought to go about overcoming these
Okay,
challenges.
for several years now, we've been talking about the issue of funding. Every filmmaker you ask, oh, I need funds to make films and all that. We're talking about formal and informal funds, talking about grants, talking about loans, but loans that are not the type that you expect someone who does buying and selling to do, because film is not like that. You make a film, it takes you time to make a film, and then you go to the cinema, you try to exploit it in different distribution platforms, before you start making the money. But the man who gives you the loan is asking you to give it to him almost immediately.
Oh, yes.
But the kind of loan that the filmmaker will want is the type that allows him maybe 2 to 3 years, for him to be able to recoup. Because it takes time to make the film, and then it also takes time to sell the film, to make the right money. And then, of course, we have issues of infrastructure, the studios to make the films. I tell you that if not of recent, we can't boast of one production lot where you can go in, make a film from start to finish. That's why you see on the internet some filmmakers are complaining that they shoot on the streets of Lagos or any other part of the country. They are being harassed. They can't shoot anywhere. They can't shoot here and there. And that's because we don't have those production lots.
No Pinewood Studios.
Like that, But we need more of production lots, production infrastructure. And luckily, the funds that have been provided by government under the creative industry development fund will address some of those stuff. And then there are plans, even at the level of the board, we are ready to give incentives to people who are interested in setting up distribution infrastructure, and all that. So there's a problem of infrastructure, not just production infrastructure, but distribution infrastructure. I mean, today we are still talking about 320 screens for a country of 200 million people.
Yeah.
We are talking about a total of about 98 physical cinema spaces in the country. So we need investors in that area, really, so that we don't limit it to just a few people who are setting up cinemas. We need to set up the cinema infrastructure. And some of the cinemas we have now are in the city centers. Are we suggesting that those who are, in our local government, rural areas, will not want to watch film? That's why we're encouraging investment in community cinemas.
Yes.
They have a lot of them in India. India boasts of about 10,000 screens. 10,000. We've not even scratched 1,000. And India is talking about 10,000 screens. And the 10,000 screens I'm talking about Some of them are community, some of them are in those multiplexes and all that. So there's something for someone, there's a venue for someone to go and watch film and all that, And this issue of infrastructure is not limited to the film industry alone, even the music. Each time they want to have a concert, they go to a particular hotel, to have the concert. But we should have arenas. And that's why I was excited recently when my colleague at the National Council for Arts and Culture, got into a deal where we are going to have a 4,000-seater performance center in Abuja, and then the ministry too is planning to make sure that we have such kind of infrastructure around the country, especially in the 6 geopolitical zones. If we can fill up those arenas, I'm sure our big stars will be able to come and do something. So we have problem of infrastructure, problem of funding, and then the bigger one is the fact that our industry is not yet a formal industry. I know some people will take me up on this, but I'm saying this from the fact that I know before I came into the board as the executive director that there's so much informality about our business. You can't track anything, Only a few people you can suggest that, okay, you can track this and that. Okay, they have made 10 films. How much had gone into making the 10 films? Where can you find the money? Where can you find the statements, of account and the rest of them? You call somebody, he says he has a wonderful idea. What have you done before now? What can we find documents? Can we find papers? You just tell them, oh, we have made 500 million. Where can I find the 500 million? Can you give me a statement that showed the 500 million and all that? So we need to begin to formalize our practice, and then align our practice with the formal subsector, especially the banks, insurance company, fintech, and all that. If we are not formal, it will be difficult for us to deal with these people. If we check some of the big-time manufacturers that we have today, they started informally, but today they have a formal structure. So we need to formalize the industry. We need to make it like business. We shouldn't just make it as one stuff that you just come, make a big hit, and then you go. We need to formalize our practice if we really want to get, make any headway.
So thank you for that. And the question of how significant the informal sector is a problem not just strictly peculiar, specific to the movie industry. It affects several sectors in the economy as well. The fact is we have a huge informal sector. And what it does mean, of course, is that there's a difficulty in attracting funding.
Yes.
If your operations are quite informal. So thank you very much for that. I'd like to talk on a related subject. I'd like to talk about Netflix, which of course has been a significant source of funding over the years for content creators and filmmakers. You recently led a delegation to Netflix headquarters in Amsterdam. The point of this was that you went in response to a decision that they had made to halt the commissioning of original content in Nigeria and elsewhere in Africa, to be fair, not just Nigeria. Since then, you've made it quite clear on returning that the decision does not in any way constitute an exit from the country by Netflix, and that they would still be prepared, of course, to license content from Nigerian producers should they meet the mark. And we've had Kunle Afolayan on this program as well, and he has echoed the same thing. They're not commissioning original content, but they're not packing their bags and leaving the country. But here's my question. First of all, how important really is Nigeria in the grand scheme of things to the operations of major streamers like Netflix and Amazon Prime? And also, how soon should we expect them to resume this commissioning if we think it's that important to us? And in any case, how important is it to us? Is there a need to fast track it on behalf of the movie industry in this country? Okay. Should we be looking in other directions?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. I led a delegation to Netflix on the instruction of the Honorable Minister for a fact-finding mission. there were a lot of stories, of course, everywhere. There were a lot of stories that Netflix left because some people were not, they would give funds to some producers to make money, and they would not put the funds to good use, or our productions were not meeting their standards and all that. But from the meeting, it's none of that. They had to rescale. They had to, based on, global economic trends, they had to rescale their production, their operations. And Nollywood or Nigerian motion picture industry is so important to them that they will not just pack their bags and leave the industry.
But not important enough for them to commission original content.
Well, commissioning original content is just one part of what they do.
Of course.
They license content, they acquire content. Commissioning is just one part, and that's the bigger pie, I know. But when a company takes a decision to rescale, and all that, and they said, okay, we may not be able to commission original content as much as we are doing, but if we find any movie that is worth commissioning, we are going to commission. I mean, I can give you several examples of movies that were already made and they were acquired as original. There are so many that have been made from this country. They are acquired. I mean, I know that for a Black Book, for instance, it was already made, but it met the standard of being acquired at that level, and it was acquired. And I know Genevieve's film too, and all that, when it was acquired after it got the Toronto premiere and all that. So commissioning, originals is just one thing that they do. They do other things. But probably when the economy improves globally, when they are able to say, okay, they want to spend on the industry, they'll come back. Nollywood is so important to them. It's so important to any streamer. If you have a streaming platform and you want to serve the blacks, in the diaspora, the Nigerians in diaspora, you will come to Nollywood because this is where you get the story that we, meet their taste and all that. So Nollywood is important to all of them, not just Netflix, and they will not leave. They assured us that they have not left. They are still here, and I know that they are still here because there are so many contents that they are still licensing and the rest. I want them to commission originals, and the reason is that when you do that, you put more resources in the hands of the filmmakers and the talents who work on the production, and all that. And then they take the responsibility of publicizing it beyond what they do to the films that they license and all that. So I want something like that, but they have not left Nigeria. They are with us. They are committed to supporting the industry, and I think they will continue to support the industry.
So Dr. Shaibu, I think we agree that licensing is alive and well. Licensing, perhaps otherwise known as cherry picking, is alive and well. But commissioning, not so much at this point in time. So let's talk about Cannes, the Cannes Film Festival, and specifically about My Father's Shadow. Chosen from over 2,900 film submissions, it made history at Cannes this year. It was Akinola Davis' debut feature film, a near historical account of chronicling Nigeria's position in the era of the 1993 military coup. And of course, that particular director is of African descent. He was seen as quite a big win for Nigeria, but there are those, of course, who would point out quite quickly that this was essentially an overseas production, midwifed by the BBC, British Film Institute, and so on and so forth. Firstly, I'd like to hear your thoughts about the film itself. Okay, the film critic that you are. What distinguishes it creatively from the best of what we have to offer here at Nollywood? And I'm making the distinction on purpose. And this was not a Nollywood movie, was it? Okay, so I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. And also, to what extent should we be delighting ourselves in this success? And but more importantly, how can we be deliberate about building on this acclaim. I mean, we have it, we might as well receive it, and creating a conveyor belt for true Nollywood productions to come through and make it to that A-list?
Okay, I will leave the first part of your questions and just take the later part.
Why,
Because
if
it will
I
be
may ask?
it will be difficult for me to sit down here as a regulator
Yes.
to begin to critique a film, and all that. We are not particularly allowed to go into that. But I want to say that it's a very good film.
Good.
I've seen it.
Excellent.
It's a very good film, well made. Of course, you may not particularly say that it is made in the mode of a Nollywood film, and well written. The story resonates, with us and with a global audience, especially in the way it is made. Do we claim that this is a Nigerian film? Yes, because it's made by a Nigerian, of course, a Nigerian-born filmmaker. Funding and support will have come internationally, but that's also, the fact that the Nigerian spirit in them, was what got them out there to make the film. Should we continue to glory in that stuff? Yes, because when the organizers of the festival were announcing the film, they actually told us that this is the first time. If the organizers recognized it as a Nigerian film, who are we to now begin to say, oh, it is not a Nigerian film and all that? But it has put Nigeria on the map.
It has.
And then the other thing it has done for Nigeria is that there's going to be some attention to our content now. The programmers, the festival programmers will be looking in now that, okay, if this kind of talents can come from here, they may not pick works, already made works from here, but they can pick works of our talents here who are working, who make the kind of films that, we make it to these festivals. Basically art films, not the commercial films that we make, basically art films, filmmakers, and we have quite a handful of them here. They could pick up those talents, groom them for us, and then at the end of the day, there will be some kind of transfer of knowledge, and the rest of them. We're looking forward to hosting Akinola, and the crew in Nigeria, maybe to give some kind of masterclass and to give some kind of workshop and all that later in the year, probably in November, not probably, in November this year, to come back and give back. And that's the whole idea. We want to build more Akinolas. We want to build more CG Obasis who have won awards in FESPACO and all that. We want to win more of Abba Makama, who has traveled with his films to almost all the festivals, Berlin, Toronto, and all that. We want to do more of people like Kenneth Gang and the rest who are raising our flags internationally. We want to do plenty have more of those people. We don't want to make it just one success, We just want to make sure that we have as many. And we want to go back to Cannes next year bigger, and not just one film in certain regards, but we also have film in the main competition.
But what's the strategy to take us there now that we have an Akio?
Well, it's collaboration. We can't do it alone. There's none of those films that can get out of there without we collaborating. So we have to set up the platform for people to collaborate, which is why the idea of Screen Nigeria came from the ministry. They had Screen Nigeria, they have a platform where people could meet, have discussions about projects that are coming and projects that are not coming. We can't sit here and make the kind of films that will be acceptable to that festivals, because those festivals have the kind of films that they are looking out for. But we can collaborate with other writers. We can collaborate with other producers to make films that will get us out. What is important is you are out there with your film. And when they are talking, they will say you are a Nigerian filmmaker, and all that.
Absolutely.
So we need to collaborate. We need to have more agreements, production agreements, co-production agreements, especially with countries. And with countries, like we have production agreement with South Africa, we need to have production agreement with Morocco, with UK, with Australia, with more developed film industries. Those things allow for some kind of, cross exchange of ideas, and all that. They would develop our scripts to the level that they expect that this will do. They will look for funding. We will provide our own kind of funding, and then we'll have this kind of works that can enter anywhere in the world. Yeah. For me, I believe that since they have broken the jinx, that Cannes will just be the main competition, will just be just about a few years away. And then again, it's another thing that we need to do, and any filmmaker will agree with me, we have to be deliberate about going international. You don't just make a film and just put it up. No. You have to be deliberate. We have one avenue, for instance, like the best international language of the Oscars, and it's for industries like us who make films in our own languages. That's a platform. But you find out that people just make those films and they just send it to the NOSC, without being deliberate about, this one will get us somewhere. We have to be deliberate in our filmmaking. We have to also network. We have to also collaborate. We can't sit here and want to be heard internationally. We have to collaborate with people so that they can be able to, provide what we don't have, for us to be able to make it internationally. But we need to be very deliberate. If you want to get into the Oscars Best International Language, you will have started making the film. If you want to get into the one of 2027, you will have started making the film in 2025. And you don't just keep the film to yourself. You begin to speak to people, talk to partners and the rest who can help you shape the film. Most of the problem we have here is that we don't spend much time in developing those contents. We just go ahead. I mean, the other day, somebody was having an argument about, Tyler shot his last film, Straw, for 9 days and all that. And I said, do you know what went into pre-production? We need to spend more time in script development. There are some films that get into these festivals that take them up to 5 years to develop. 5 years to develop. And they will be attending the festivals, getting notes, coming back, tweaking the script, getting the right people, talking to programmers and all that. But you don't just stand up, because the film is about King Shaibu. So you just make the film and just think that it should be accepted. And then we must drop the commercial template, because those festivals are not for commercial films. They don't want to see a flight going and then the flight is one brand that they know. They don't want to see you in a restaurant and then there's a popular beer behind you. You're advertising a product placement and all that. We feast on that a lot because it's our commercial industry.
Yes.
That industry is not that type. So you need to know what to do. And then, of course, equipment and all that. So we'll get there. We'll really get there.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, I was very proud of that moment. In fact, I had goosebumps when they said from Nigeria, when they walked on the red carpet in Cannes. We go to Cannes every year, but we don't get on that carpet, And then this is his first debut as a feature film director.
Yeah.
So you know that he has a long way, ahead of him. And I know that by the next time he's doing a film, he will get into the main competition. Yeah. What I'm saying is that if you're producing content, if you're a content creator for this environment, and you know that there are certain things that you cannot express, there are several ways that you can say those things subtly, and then it will pass. But if you now come and say, you want to say it the way it should happen, the way the story was told in 1994 or in 1940, and then you want to bring it and slap it on the audience, you are going to have issues.